Hey everyone, it's Sam here, and today I am back with another one of these expanding block cards. So this is the start of a new series that I'm doing. So I did the 5x7 one as the first video, and you'll find that in the playlist popping up. Then I was supposed to do a 6x6 today, but it went very wrong and I worked out all my measurements wrong, but I think we've got a happy accident. So this ends up being 6x8, but I am going to redo the 6x8 so it looks more like this, and I will do the 6x6 again so it looks more like this when it all folds down. But this is today's, and you can see when it pulls out you have these frames. How cool. Now this is a showstopper. It is very big, but the idea is that it displays more like an accordion, so like this, and then you get to see a little bit of each one as they look at it. I've done my space for my sentiment on the very back one here, but you could do it on the very back. You've got plenty of space there if you want. But this one does all fold down into that 6x8 size. I will show you all the products that I've used and go through all of the measurements with you. You could use dies to cut the apertures, but I actually cut them using my trimmer. So really, there's no dies needed for this one if you go right down that route. But you also don't need to cut the frames. It can just be solid blocks like this, and you can just stamp or use your pattern papers. It's entirely up to you. So let's get started, and I'll show you how to make this monster card. So I'm going to be using the Flying High stamping die set. I'm using this one a lot lately, and I'm using the little fence there, the dragonfly and the bee and the flowers. And then I've got the hello from my big words, and then I've used the background, this one here. Now you will need more than what you would get in one pack. I actually had 2 packs of this. So just think about your background paper. Make sure you've got enough to cover the amount that I'm going to give you. Maybe use a 12x12 paper pad or something, but if you've got multiple pads, then that will work. Okay, so it's all straightforward. I have done a lot of the pieces already, and I've stuck all of the background. So you can see here, there's a lot of that background, but I really wanted that as the main part. So you want a piece of 10.5 by 6. This is going to be the first lot of folds, and you're going to score along the 10.5 side at 3, 6 and 10. And you're going to concertina fold. So you've got a mountain, valley and a mountain. Okay, so we can see that first section. I'm also going to give you the mat layers as we go along as well. So you want 2 pieces of 2 3/4 by 5 3/4. And then you'll want 2 pieces, because this will go on to the next one, of 3 3/4 by 5 3/4. And I made sure that the seams kind of carry, you know, it worked well. It looked like the rolling hills and things like that. Okay, the next one that's going to follow on after. This is a piece of 9.5 by 6, and along the long side you're going to score at 4 and 9. Okay, you've already got your mat layer. That's the second piece that I told you, and then you'll want 2 pieces of 4 3/4 by 5 3/4, and then this is going to join on to this piece. So this is 11 by 6, and along the 11-inch side you're going to score at 5. So that's that other size mat there I gave you, and then you'll want 1 piece of 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. We'll stick those all together in a moment. Then to make the blocks all frames, because you don't have to have them as a frame that I've done here. Yours can just be solid pieces. And as I've said in the tutorial for this one, the length you'll want to keep the same, but the height of these you can change. So you might not want to have one on each side. You might want to have quite a few of this size or a little bit smaller. It's up to you. So the first section size, so the one that's going to go in between this front first kind of pull out, you need to make sure that the length is 9 inches, but the thickness of this is entirely up to you. So mine is 9 by 3, and along the 9-inch side you're going to score at half, 4.5 and 8.5. And then what I did is I used my trimmer. If you don't have any dies, now you could either cut this with a ruler and a cutting knife, but if you've got your trimmer, the edge here I lined up to 1/2 inch on this, the other side of the blade. So you can see there, just sitting it up to that 1/2 inch. And then you've got a ruler on your trimmer, and you've got little notches on your little blade there. I just lined it up with I made sure it was lined up with 1 inch. So when I dropped that down, I then cut from 1 inch down to 4. Okay, so all the way down there to 4, and then just turned it around. And then that middle fold, I lined that up with the 1/2 inch, and then went back in again and this time I just followed where that cut was, so it was in line here, and then you're going to cut down to, was it 2.5? That's if you want to do a 1/2 inch, and then back round again, line it up with your 1/2 inch, and just cut it until you've cut your windows out. And by, you know, I done 1/2 inch because I wanted a 1/2 inch border, but you might want to have a smaller border, so you could just come in 1/4 inch. You're going to back this with acetate, so it is going to bring the strength back in. The easiest option is dies. You might want to do an oval, rectangle, so have a look at what dies you've got to cut your aperture. But like I said, you can keep this solid and just do mats and layers. Okay, so that's for the first section. Then for the second section, you want to make sure the length is 11, and I've done 11 by 4, but you could do yours bigger or smaller. And then along the 11 inch side, you're going to score at 1/2 inch, 5.5 and 10.5. And again, cut the aperture. I've done a 1/2 inch frame. Okay. And then now, because this is cut from A4, it's just under 11 3/4. So the best thing to do is score at 1/2 inch that way, flip it around, score at 1/2 inch again, and then the middle should be around 5 7/8. But what you can do is just fold it in half and just put a little pinch halfway, and then open it up, and then just sit it down on any track and score. Okay. But if you've only got letter size, then you can do 11. It's just it won't overhang, you know, the same as all the others, but it will still work. So if you want to do it as 11, then you would just score at 1/2 inch at each side, and then halfway, which would be 5.5. Okay. What I've gone ahead and done is I've put some red tape, thin red tape, around all of the frames there on the other side. First, we can start putting this together. So you want the one that's got these sections here, what are they? 3-inch sections. That's your first lot. The last one will be your one with your big 6x6 panel. Okay, it's the last one. So then the one that's left, you know, is for the middle. And you'll have a tab here and a tab on that one, so each one has something to connect to. So stick your paper down before or after, it's entirely up to you. I'm going to use my quick grab glue. Just going to run that all the way down, and then just sit this one. Once that's drying, go on and do the next one, and then you can do a little test. So you want to make sure you've got a mountain fold, and then you're going to have a valley, then you're going to have another mountain, another valley, another mountain, and you're going to finish with that valley. And you'll see when you lay it down, you have that cool effect, and the design runs perfectly. So just think about the pattern paper you want to use, because visually when they take it out of the envelope, it looks quite nice with all of this detail. It is going to get a little bit hidden now with the blocks that we're going to add to it, but you know, you could have yours so they're all hidden inside, so you don't see any of it until you pull it out. But I think that looks really cool. So next we can start to attach these. Now I am going to think about the decoration first, because what I want to do is obviously add the acetate. So the smallest is the first one, medium size, and then the large. So that's the order they're going to go. What I've done here is I've just stamped and coloured in some of the images from this set here. And what I did is I stamped them using the antique linen, and it gives you this kind of no outline kind of colouring. So can you see the detail, like the outline's not as strong? Again, there with the dragonfly, the flowers. So I just went for more of a subtle look. I didn't want any black on this card. Something to compare it to. You can see the bee there, and then when it's stamped, you just get a much softer look. So it's entirely up to you. Now on the first one, I've cut 2 pieces of acetate here that are 3.5 by 2.5, and they will cover the tape because that's 1/4 inch underneath. So just make sure whatever size you cut your acetate is going to cover your sticky tape behind. Okay, so they're going to be stuck behind like so, and then I think on the front 2 I'm going to have probably the bee and maybe a couple of little flowers, but I think I want to tuck the flowers in behind, so roughly something like that. Then for the next 2 apertures there, and you don't have to have 2 apertures, you might want to just cut an aperture out of one and then have a solid piece on the other side. It's up to you. These are 4.5 by 3.5. Again, you'll see they're going to go nicely behind each one. Now it's the middle one on the left side that I want to have my sentiment. We're going to have the hello, so it's going to look like it's floating in the frame. And then on this side, I think I want another bee and possibly the fence. So again, I want to just tuck that behind the acetate. Maybe the bee can be just above. Now I've also got these very sweet little flowers, but I'll probably add them on last. I don't need them straight away. So that's kind of the middle section, and you're going to see all that background paper behind as well. Then for the last two, I've got 2 pieces of 4.5 by 5, and once you've stuck them down, just spray a bit of paper towel with some rubbing alcohol, surgical spirit, and just wipe over it all, and that'll get rid of any sticky marks and any static that you might have. Now I'm thinking I might have my sentiment on this last section, because the way that you kind of display them, doesn't matter if you don't, but it's kind of like that. So that one would be that one there, be on the side, or you can have it on the back. So I might not add that yet, but I'm just kind of placing it just in case. Now I definitely want the dragonfly. I think the dragonfly right in the middle there, and again with a bit of the picket fence, I think looks really cute. I should really have a little bit of the picket fence on the very front as well. So maybe I'll pop that in there somewhere. And then I thought it would be nice again to have some of these flowers. I might have that bigger one, maybe do something like that for that one. Like I said, these are going to go up and kind of, you know, frame the outside. Let's do maybe that one there, and then the dragonfly maybe that way. Hopefully you can see all this. Yeah, I'm just in shot. And then maybe that one on the front there, and then these, like I said, are going to dot around and fill in all the other spaces. So I think that's where I'm going to go. Like I said, that one, I think that's where I'm going to do my message. And I've just popped a bit of double-sided tape on the back, and that is a piece of 3.5 squared. So I'm going to get the acetate all attached to the back, give it all a wipe, and then I'm going to stick all of this decoration down. You can stick it down once you've stuck it into the card if you'd prefer, but I just wanted to, but I just thought it was quite nice just to lay it out this way first. Okay, so I've got all of my panels ready, so now we can start sticking it all together. So start with your smallest one. You want to fold it in half, so you've got your 2 tabs. So this one's easy to stick in because you're lining it up with the edge of the card here. Okay, so you want to add your glue along both sides there, just on that little tab. And then I want this in the middle of the card, so I'm going to just sit it on there. You can use a ruler if you want, so you're looking at 1.5, that looks about right to me. And then let that stick down on that side, and then push that side down. Once you're happy that that's stuck, carefully lift it up, and you've got your first pop out. Okay, then you want to do the next one, and this is going to go halfway between the next panel. So if I count the panels, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's the 5th panel, and this is 5, so I'm just going to lay my ruler at 2.5, and that's halfway there. That's where you want to line up your fold, not the tab, but the score line, sorry, should I say. Just roughly, when the card's all down, it's going to be 8 by 6 because of obviously the overhang. So again, just add your glue to both pieces there. And then this one, you're going to have about 1 inch from the top and the bottom. One, that looks good. I'm going to bring this all down, and then you can see that should also sit. Bring it down a little bit. You see the frames sit within each other. And then again, carefully, I'm going to do it this way. As you pull them open, you get your next one. It looks really good. Like I said, it's a monster. It's a big showstopper. And then the last one, this one is 6. So I'm going to lay my ruler at 3. And again, and then this one, again, that score line is going to line up. And then I just want to make sure I've got about 1/2 inch from the top and the bottom. Bring all of this over, and the other frame should sit perfectly on top, which they do. And then again, just carefully pull that last one out and just make sure they're really secure. And just when you bring them out, just kind of fold back on them, like so. And that one. Now the idea is when it's displayed like so, you've got each one showing a little bit of the scene, and as you're looking down like a tunnel like this, you can see how that all looks. So I'm now going to decorate with the remaining flowers here, and then I'll show you at the end. So for a card that wasn't supposed to be like this, I actually think it's turned out really well. It's hard for you to see it displayed, but that's how it looks. And I just love the acetate and the frames cut out. I think it's a really cool style. And a great one, I think, if you've got a colleague in work, because if you want lots of space for signatures, then you've got plenty on the back there as well. But it does all fold down into that 6x8 size, so it's not too big, but they will need a bit of space on their shelf or their mantle for this one, that's for sure. I'll just bring back in this one here. So I am gonna, although this was meant to be my 6x6, I am gonna redo the 6x6 so it does fold down like this into a 6x6, and I'm gonna do a 6x8 again this size, where it's again all folds down to that 6x8, and it's, these aren't all hanging out. But I think this is kind of a happy accident, because I do really like it. I think it's really effective. So as always, all of the products that I've used will be linked in the description box below this video. I will have the products to the peanuts in there as well if you're interested. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future videos. Drop me a comment, because I do enjoy reading them, and give me a thumbs up as well, because it really does help out the channel. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.